This might be the most elaborate intro I've ever done, or this might be something a bit different. Look at this. It's two Cultaholic people doing news at the same time. There's Jack over there. Hello, friend. It's like
the lockdown never happened, Tom. It's like we're in the same room, isn't it?
We are basically in the same room. I'm doing all right, matey, from Isolation Station 24601. Does your isolation station have a number?
I haven't checked. I'm sure if I lift up the doormat, it'll be under there, but I haven't checked yet. Are we doing some news?
Do you know what? Shall we do a bit of news?
If you want to, I feel like you were about to ask me another question and I've cut you off.
I was going to say, this is something new that we're doing. I was just going to let people know that the one thing that we've missed is chatting to each other. We know that you've missed us chatting to each other as well. So as opposed to two little news videos today, you're going to get a beefy news video with me here and Jack there. So this should be a lovely time had by all, right, Jack?
I think it's a good idea. I think that it's always a bit nicer to watch or listen to a show where people bounce, where it's a bit more natural, do you know what I mean? Where there's a bit more conversation going on. Obviously, we'll listen to feedback and see what people think of the idea, but on a personal point, it does make it a lot easier just to have someone else to talk with rather than staring into a camera. On my own. And do you shoot on your own, or is there someone else in the room when you do?
There's a fleet of people behind the camera normally. There's a producer, a runner, 3 writers, and a prop guy. So I mean, they've all been sacked. They've all been fired.
Hair, makeup.
Oh gosh, yeah. I haven't had hair and makeup for years, mate. So it's just me and you. So let's see how we go. Here's the headlines. WWE talent have backstage heat with top WWE staff member. AEW respond to bullying allegations. And a classic WWE event is returning this month. We'll talk about it in a bit. So it's been a fun old ride on WWE television since the glorious pandemic era came in. And there is some backstage unrest once again this morning. You're waking up to news from PW Insider that says the current creative at WWE right now falls directly behind 2 men in particular, Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. And there's not a lot of love for Brucey Baby at the moment, is there, Jack?
No, a lot of people are saying that basically he's kind of the person at the moment with, was it the most influence apart from somebody with the surname McMahon? He's kind of managed to get himself in this position of great power in 2020. Bruce Brother Love has managed to do this in 2020. And of course, because apparently, according to this report, what he says goes effectively, or his word holds terrific sway, both from telling the talent what Vince wants and telling Vince what the talent is saying. He can recommend who he wants. He can put his own favorites forward. That's put him in a very influential position. And generally, in sort of competitive companies like WWE, that's going to make you a bit of a figure for, heat if you're rubbing certain people the wrong way, or you're pushing people who maybe are being pushed ahead of someone else. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of intangibles here, but yeah.
Being in a position like that, as you say, it does lead to a lot of frustration amongst the roster. It's weird to see Vince and Bruce having such control again, because going back to Monday Night Raw, Vince McMahon, whilst he always has the final say on everything, like they've very much taken more of the helm, more of the lead on this one. The segment that we saw on Raw with Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Alexa Bliss, that was Vince McMahon saying, "This is what I want to do," and a few people actually opposed it and said, "I don't think this is right." And Vince went, "Well, tough, this is what we're doing." And Bruce, very much of a similar ilk, like whatever he says goes. He wasn't at Raw this past week, though, but Triple H was. What was the mood like, Jack?
Well, from what we read, it was like when the fun substitute teacher's in. Everyone was just a bit happy to see Triple H. I mean, I'd be, because I'm more of a Triple H fan than a Brother Love fan. But I'm sure there's plenty of Brother Love fans out there. But I think generally from what we've seen with NXT, Triple H seems to be quite a progressive creative mind in WWE, whereas Bruce Pritchard, and this might be assuming too much, but generally from what I can tell, Bruce Pritchard seems to be a bit more of a traditionalist. He kind of sticks with what he knows, which admittedly led to very successful times for WWE, earlier on. But it's a question of, I guess, how applicable are those things now? I mean, financially, they're still absolutely raking it in. So I don't know if Vince would want to. I mean, he doesn't care how good the product is. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to change it. Maybe Bruce is sitting pretty at the moment. I don't really know, but I just like the idea of Triple H rolling up backstage. His music's playing all the time. I'm like, yes, it's Triple H. Get in.
We haven't got to work today.
Yeah.
But that is really, it's kind of the feeling backstage is that Triple H was backstage at Raw. He's been at SmackDown for the last couple of weeks. He was backstage on Raw. And he took time to speak to a fair amount of the talent. Right. And he was reassuring a lot of people because there's a lot of, to quote some of these sources, some from PW Insider, some from WrestlingNews.co, there's a lot of frustration and a lot of paranoia within a lot of the talent. Frustration because people aren't getting the TV time they want and they're concerned, and paranoia because, well, WWE have proved this year that they're back in the old sacking people game. They didn't do it for quite a while. They just basically kept filling up the roster like it was a clown car. And now they're letting a few people out, and there is some concern. But Triple H, I feel like Triple H has got that connection, hasn't he, Jack? Because he's seen as one of the lads.
Yeah.
And I think that does support that. With WrestlingNews.co, they also say they've heard from wrestlers who are frustrated with a lack of TV time. Do you think that there's a connection between that and the fact that there's been a lot going on Main Event lately? As a random aside.
Potentially, that might make a lot of sense. By a lot, do you mean Retribution showing up?
Now, not only did Retribution turn up and beat up the Gobbledygooker, and we kind of saw that, and we talked about that as, this is the death knell for Retribution. They're on Main Event. But then on Raw, we had a video package for Jeff Hardy and Elias, and they actually did an angle on Main Event to build to their match on Raw.
Oh, right, yeah. I didn't actually see that, but I saw...
It's okay, no one sees Main Event. You're forgiven.
But I saw people tweeting about it, saying, what, Jeff Hardy's on Main Event? And at the time, I didn't take much from it, because I thought, well, occasionally bigger names sometimes are on Main Event, slightly bigger names, but now that you mention it, that is quite a huge name to be on Main Event. And to be fair, that's a good thing, right? That they've used Main Event to actually have context with what's going on elsewhere.
I think if you've got that massive roster, then and you've got an extra hour of programming, then why not use it? I know Main Event in the grand scheme of things is one of the lesser watch shows, and that's sort of because they've never given you anything to watch. But whether they might change that up now and make it like a B show for Raw and SmackDown, I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we wake up this morning, as we say, to some bad vibes around Bruce Pritchard. What can Bruce do, Jack, to curry favour once again?
I don't think Bruce cares about currying favour with anyone apart from Vince, and that's fine. He's just going to keep doing what Vince wants him to and keep booking the way that Bruce Pritchard books, and I think he'll be fine. I think he's been around long enough that he's not really going to care what the boys and girls think of him in the locker room. So what do you think?
Again, I think he is very similar to you. He's sitting very pretty right now. He's in a very prominent position. He puts some episodes of Raw together. He does 300 podcasts with Conrad Thompson. He's got everything he really needs right now,
Yeah, I don't think he cares if he's got heat or not. He'll probably see... Well, no, he probably won't see this video. He'll probably hear about...
He watches all the time, mate. What are you talking about?
He's a big fan.
He's very concerned about the new setup. He quite enjoyed watching Jack-only news videos. Very upset.
He'll be... Someone will tell him about this report going around about heat, and he'll probably laugh at it. That's what I think. I think he doesn't care. But that's just a guess.
So last month, you may have seen some tweets going around from a gentleman that used to work for an AEW affiliated production company. And they were tweets that talked about and made allegations of bullying and harassment and gaslighting within AEW. And there was no comment from AEW until recently. Jack, you saw these tweets, didn't you?
Yeah. So it was a man who seemed to work for, as you mentioned, not AEW itself, but a production company affiliated with AEW. And he basically claimed that his I guess, line manager, his boss, would use Cody's name, Cody Rhodes' name, as kind of a threat, saying Cody doesn't like you. Please leave the building today because Cody's like going to be there and he doesn't want you in the same building as him. Quite extreme stuff like that, like quite nasty stuff. And there were various other things, all kind of centered around an unfair working environment in sort of a personal way. Like, he was treated horribly, he was shouted at, he was forced to delete various bits of social media. Now, the bit where it got confusing was that he named Cody in this like accusation quite a lot by name, saying, "Oh, they told me Cody this, Cody that," but Cody never directly. Cody was never the direct perpetrator of any of these actions, and he did admit that he didn't even know whether or not Cody knew what was going on or was behind it, essentially. But he held back from naming the actual people doing it to him, so that at first that kind of set off a few little, red flags, I suppose. Then obviously, and this is a case where I think multiple people are just in the wrong, unfortunately, in this story. There's no good guy here. But people then found old tweets of this man who was, making these accusations. They contained, there were some racist tweets, there were some homophobic tweets, and there were some tweets sent to Cody, which kind of, because how do I explain this? Part of his statement was the whole, well, I had this reputation as a mark, as a big super fan backstage, a stalker of Cody's. And then there were tweets sent to Cody that would make someone uncomfortable to work with someone, I personally think anyway. Not too long in the past either. So it was a very messy situation. It all seems to have died down a lot since these kind of earlier tweets from this man were unearthed. But I mean, it's just one of those situations where I feel like it's kind of multiple people are at fault in this situation. Thankfully for AEW, Cody doesn't seem to be one of those people on the surface, really, does he? In the story,
it doesn't strike you as such, and it was actually Cody that broke the silence on the whole
right.
thing. So the first comment from AEW came from Cody. He was responding to a fan who said that people who believed the story and criticized Cody over it should apologize. This is what the fan said. Cody Rhodes saw this tweet and responded to it and said, quote, "To be fair, my fans were the only ones who instantly knew it was hogwash. I don't give that stuff any oxygen. Disinformation should be given zero value. Those types of pot shots will continue with more success than we have. Unfortunate byproduct of this beautiful run and revolution." And that's the first time AEW have commented on it, and it will probably be the last.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I mean, totally fair enough to him for not wanting to even acknowledge something that he feels was untrue about himself. Like, that's totally fair. I understand the not giving it oxygen thing, 100%. But then the one part of it that kind of strikes me as a bit off is the fact that there did seem to be something there. Something seemed to have gone on with this guy. Not involving Cody, but involving somebody affiliated with AEW or even working with AEW very closely. And I feel like that's in danger of just being brushed over, if you know what I mean.
A little bit, yeah. It seems that way. But obviously, when we know more about it, we'll let you know more at cultaholic.com. Winter is coming! That's right, AEW Dynamite Special tonight. Jack, are you excited for this Dynamite Special this evening?
Oh, very excited. I mean, it's a huge show. I think AEW are doing it because it's a little while until the next pay-per-view, so they've decided, let's have a massive show on TV. And we've got that title match. Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega. Something big is going to happen. Whatever happens, it's going to have seismic ramifications. So yeah, I can't wait. What about you?
I'm very excited for it. Like it's you're the AEW guy and I'm the NXT guy. And as the NXT guy, I go, I'm actually quite excited for AEW this evening. I mean, don't get me wrong, NXT is always a good laugh, and we're heading to War Games, so it's all good. But yeah. AEW Dynamite has got my attention tonight, and you know it's a big deal for AEW when an episode of Dynamite not only gets its own nickname, not only gets its own Road to YouTube special, but gets its own media call.
Yes.
It's Tony time once again.
It is Tony time. Tony Khan time. I can't wait.
Khan o'clock, Mother Hubbards.
What's he unearthed?
So, a few things about plans going forward for AEW have come from this media call. Let's start with AEW Dark. With regards to AEW Dark, Tony Khan has said, we've built a really big roster and it's hard to use everybody, but at the same time, we need to keep developing talent and bringing people in. That's where Dark has become valuable, and I've extended the length of Dark, and I'm seriously considering splitting Dark into multiple developmental shows, and possibly even having one that is more of a developmental show and one that is more established talent. I think for us right now, it's more important to add and develop people than for me to worry about cutting the budget during a pandemic. A Dark for Dark, Jack, essentially is what's being sort of pitched here by Tony.
It's quite early for that, isn't it? That's the first thing that came into my head immediately was, it's a bit early to have a third show. But I mean, I guess that's the positive of having it on YouTube. You don't need a TV deal for every show. You can have as many as you want. You can have 10. I mean, don't say that too loudly because he might just do. If there's one thing we know about Tony Khan, it's that he loves wrestling. He loves wrestling.
He loves the crap.
As much wrestling as he possibly can. What do you think of this?
Do you think part of this? I think it's great. Like AEW Dark is always a really good watch. There's always 400 matches on there, and it's a really bulky wrestling show. Yes. And I wonder though whether it's become that because of the pandemic. They're not worrying about moving around the country. They're staying put, which means when you stay put, you can put more focus into stuff like this. And I wonder whether there would be this desire to create a Dark for Dark if you were traveling around and on the road with it all the time. I don't know. Maybe
if he does introduce the Dark for Dark, that would be like a home that would just be stationed at Daly's Place. Maybe.
Do you reckon?
I don't know if that would work or not. Maybe it'd be like I really don't know.
Well, it's either way, WWE be delighted because it's a great place to scout talent, is AEW. Yeah. People love watching Dark and going, we'll have them. It's like a shop window. Another championship, as well as another episode. How about another championship for AEW? Would you like that?
Again, that's another one where immediately I'm like, it's a bit early. Because what have we got at the minute? We've got the World Heavyweight title, the women's title, the NWA women's title. I think we can count as well because it does appear quite frequently. The tag titles, and I guess the FTW. Well, the FTW title's got a storyline about whether it's a legit title or not. So I think we can count that for now as well. Or what's
it's only 5? There's loads of space. If you do a Dark for Dark,
yeah, true.
5 belts is nothing, mate.
What's this new one then?
Well, this goes back to something that they were talking about on the Rock and Rager, where Kenny Omega teased the Trios Championship. And lovely pop. And it was brought up again in conversation. And it sounds like Big Tone's a big fan. He says that he said it won't be in 2020. It will be, if it happens, likely to happen in 2021. I've been seriously thinking about it. There's a lot of momentum for it, and we have a lot of great trios teams, which is really, actually, that's a good point. There's a beefy roster for a trios division. Yeah. I would like to get through 2020 into Beach Break and towards Revolution, but I definitely think it's something on my agenda and something I've been talking about for a long time and even thinking about it. So there you go. He's not saying no to a trios belt.
No, he's not at all. I agree that there's a lot of great trios on the roster. Just off the top of my head, you've got Death Triangle, Best Friends. You've got like various different Dark Order combinations you could possibly have. You've got the Bucks and Omega. Like, there's so many different combinations you could put together. There'll be great teams. But I wonder if there was a trios belt, would that devalue the tag belts, or would the storylines get muddied between the two? Because if you've got, or would it dilute both rosters? Because if you've got some trios teams and suddenly they want to go for the tag belts, then you've got less. I feel like it might dilute things too much if there was a trios and a tag division. I don't know.
Unless too many.
Unless the trios division was on a different level, like maybe a lower level to the tag division. So you've got like the Gun Club involved. I don't know. On the Dark for Dark, the trios belts could be the top belts on the Dark for Dark show.
Trios belt on the Dark for Dark. If you take anything away from this news video, trios belts on the Dark for Dark.
Dark for Dark show is just going to become like a lucha show. It's great.
I'm all right with it. Me too. You can hold
Make
that
the GM Sir Pentaco, and he can just run the show. I think that's fantastic.
That's chef's kiss. And finally, one other thing that came from the presser was discussion on Jon Moxley, and it was asked whether Jon Moxley would be a part of Wrestle Kingdom, which is coming up in January. Moxley, the IWGP US champion, a belt that he has held since when did he win it? Was it back in
Oh,
he won it back at the last Wrestle Kingdom, didn't he? Back in January.
Did he? Was that
way? Coming up to a year.
I was going to say that, and then I thought, is that true?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Obviously, he can't travel with it at the minute, or he couldn't for a long time, so that's why he's held it for so long. I'm surprised they haven't stripped him of it.
Me too. And more so now that I've heard from Tony Khan himself, who says that Jon Moxley will not be a part of Wrestle Kingdom this year. So the US Championship will not be on show at the biggest New Japan show of the year. And like you say, I'm surprised he hasn't been stripped of it, because in the past, New Japan, they're pretty hot to strip a title if you can't make it to a show, even if it's an act of God, if you don't make it to the show. But I guess a global pandemic could be classed as a mitigating circumstance.
Now, I've got a bit of a mad theory, Tom. Don't worry.
Hit me with your mad theory.
So, I think, and there's going to be some people who are like, what is, Jack's lost his mind. I think this could be a lie from TK. I think he could be working the marks, Tom.
Ooh.
And this, again, is just total speculation, but we know that relations have certainly improved a little bit between New Japan and AEW in the past few months. What if New Japan want Moxley a lot and Tony's agreed for Wrestle Kingdom, but he's gone, let me lie, so that it seems like he might not beat Omega tonight. Winter is coming. I don't know why I turned it into a promo there. Tonight. Yeah. And then we'll all think, oh, well, Moxley must be retaining then. Or at least that's what Tony wants us to think. And then he bloody loses, takes his ball and heads off to New Japan. I don't know. It reminds me of something that happened to me, Sam, and Richard in Tokyo. So we were watching New Year's Dash, which is the kind of the Raw after WrestleMania for New Japan. And we were stood near the commentary place before the commentary table before the show started. And Kevin Kelly, we introduced ourselves to Kevin Kelly and stuff. Lovely. I mean, as you know, really nice guy.
Top bloke.
On your Desert Island graps. And he was talking to another one of the commentary team, and loudly within earshot of us said, yes, so when Jericho shows up, say blah, blah, blah. And we were like, what's going on here? But we didn't say anything. We didn't report anything. We didn't rush to Twitter and look like... And then Jericho never showed up. And we were like, oh, is this a little cheeky test by Kevin Kelly to
Cheeky Kev, working the boys.
Well, so I'm glad we didn't report anything. But is this what's going on with... Is Kevin Kelly behind all of this? Is this
Kevin Kelly?
Cheeky Kev again.
Cheeky Kev rides again. So there's part of you that thinks this might be a red herring thrown in there by keen fisherman Tony Khan. Maybe.
I'd like for it to be. I'd like to think there's still a little bit of smoke and mirrors in wrestling, towards the good of, for putting on a good product, not just for, not just to keep things all insular and stuff. But I'd like for there to be a bit of showmanship and a bit of blurring the lines with the media once again. But I don't know. I hope it's true though.
We will see. AEW Winter is coming tonight. Jack, are you going to grade it tomorrow?
I am going to be doing graded tomorrow, and I think and hope that it'll get quite a high one.
Okay, fingers crossed. And Finalamo, a classic WWE event, is making a comeback. First time since 2015, Jack. We are getting Slammy Awards.
Yeah.
Do you look upset by the return of the Slammies?
I'm not upset. I've just never really been they've never captured me, Tom. They've never captured my imagination. Maybe I'm of the slightly wrong era. Because weren't they quite a big thing back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, for many, they did them in '86 and '87, and
Stand
got them back in the mid '90s. Yes, that's where Stand Back came from.
Absolutely.
They ran them through the mid '90s, and they varied throughout, from being kayfabe awards to being kind of shoot awards.
Okay.
Which is always interesting. I don't know how they'll do it this year. What we do know is it won't be part of Monday Night Raw. It'll be a standalone special. Chances are, very much like with everything now, like with Main Event and as we talked about, doing Dark after Dark after Dark at dailies, because they've got these residencies, they could just shoot the Slammy Awards at the Thunderdome.
True. Very true.
And just air it it's going to be aired as a network special. there's a whole bunch of other network specials that are going down as well, which we're going to talk about in a second. But before we do, Jack, would you like a bloody Slammy's quiz?
Oh, go on then.
I really
wasn't ready. Okay. Oh, I'm going to do so badly, but okay.
Right. So I've got here five Slammy Award categories. You have to tell me whether they were real Slammy Award categories or whether I have made them up.
Okay, right? I'm ready.
Right. Smelliest wrestler. Was that a Slammy or not?
No.
That was a Slammy Award. From 1994, the result was a tie between Henry Godwin and Duke the Dumpster Droese.
I should have guessed. There was a lot of smelly gimmicks around that time.
Most interesting beard. Is that a Slammy or not?
That sounds like a Tom Campbell creation.
It is indeed Tom Campbell creation. There was no Slammy called most interesting beard. Best bow tie Slammy. Is that a Slammy or not?
Oh, I'm going to go for no, just because there's not often that many bow ties in wrestling.
This was a Slammy.
Wow.
And this is a great bit of history. Yeah. So Backlund was a nominee, as was Clarence Mason.
A nominee?
Yeah.
Robbed. Absolutely robbed.
Quite literally, as was Clarence Mason, Steve Urkel, did I do that? And Yokozuna, apparently. This is in 1997.
Backlund's got that locked up, that category. Backlund's got that.
You say robbed, you're actually correct, because this was the Slammy Award that Owen Hart stole.
Oh.
When he got on the podium to deliver to announce the nominees, went, whoa, I did it again, I've won a Slammy, and then ran off. That's the one he stole, best bow tie.
Fair enough.
Grumpiest wrestler, Slammy or not?
Oh. I don't think, would they use the word, do Americans use the word grumpy? I'll go for no, I'll err on the side of fake.
You're right, I made that one. Okay. Well done. And finally, sweatiest wrestler.
I'll just say true because I want it to be.
This was true.
Oh, wow.
From 1994, the award went to Erwin R. Shyster. That was a shoot award. He was a sweaty boy.
That's just people backstage being mean. That's not very nice at all.
He did sweat a lot. A lot. We've had a whole bunch of other WWE Network specials. Have you got them in front of you, Jack, or would you like me to
I can if need be.
I've just talked a lot. I was gonna just shut up and see whether you wanted to go through some of the network stuff, but I can do it.
It's okay. I've closed my laptop, so
I've got them right here. Then I've got them right here. So as well as the Slammy Awards, we've got a whole bunch of other network specials confirmed for this month. Drew and A.
Right. Can we address something off camera?
Yes, we can.
I had a look over the news notes and messaged the group chat and said, lads, I don't understand what Drew and A means. I'd Googled Drew and A. I'd seen all the stuff about Drew and A that we're going to talk about, and I couldn't find out who A was. And I was like, who is A? He's not going to be doing a thing with Arn Anderson. Like, I can't see that happening. And I just couldn't work out what was going on. So to play on words for Q&A, as was pointed out by Tom, and I felt silly.
It's one of them where I wasn't like sure whether or not, because it's difficult to tell in text whether or not you were just playing silly buggers.
No,
I was like, I don't want to tell you in case it goes over my head. But no,
I genuinely got confused. In writing, it's less obvious. I think if we'd been in the office and you'd gone Drew and A, I'd have gone, oh, yeah, well, that's hilarious. I'd have got it. I'd have loved it. I'd have got it and I'd have loved it straight away.
Drew is on the other side of the interview desk as well. This month, because he's on an episode of Broken Skull Sessions with Steve Austin.
So Drew and A, sorry to cut you off there briefly, but that's a kind of a podcast interview thing hosted by Drew. Okay.
Drew, so Drew chatting to Matthew McConaughey. I think he's been everywhere at the moment.
Wow.
He's doing the rounds at the moment. I think every podcast I listen to, they've had Matthew McConaughey on as a guest. Except Desert Island Grabs. So Broken Skull Sessions with I and Drew as well. Right. We're getting a WWE 24 on Big Keith, on Keith Lee.
Oh, nice.
That'd be amazing. I hope he talks about the match he had in Middlesbrough. We're getting a day off from Survivor Series 2020.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Are you looking forward to the WWE Untold Goldberg streak?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one as well. There's some strong stuff here.
Yeah. Break It Down with Asuka. Break It Down. I've not seen Break It Down.
Me neither.
Okay, I was hoping you might be able to how it differs to others, because I feel like a lot of these shows are just different names for the same premise. Still good. WWE Icons, we're getting our first look at that. So this is going to be like a documentary series that looks at those guys in wrestling that probably wouldn't get their own multi-part series, probably wouldn't get their own 24, but definitely deserve a look at, you know, guys like Yokozuna and Lex Luger and people like that from the period. So I'm up for watching that as well. We're also getting, and this blends in with, you know, how everybody's had all their Twitch channels shut down, unless you're Thea Trinidad. WWE Superstar Gaming Series is listed here.
Oh.
So I believe this is WWE going, come and do Twitch on our network.
So how does that differ from Up, Up, Down, Down? Presumably because it'll be Twitch rather than YouTube, I'm guessing.
I believe it'd be Bruce Pritchard directing it. Everyone will love it. It'll be amazing. And then obviously pay-per-views, TLC, TakeOver War Games, and all that stuff. And they're doing the 10 best matches of 2020.
Oh.
As well. So where would you put? What would you put in that near that top list? Maybe not number one, but what would you put in the list?
Are we including NXT, or do they normally just do main roster? What do they normally do on these lists? They include NXT, don't
I think they include NXT.
But I think they underrepresent NXT, otherwise it would be largely NXT. And they just put a sprinkle, they just put a dash of NXT in typically, don't they?
I think they can't deny putting Volta versus Ilya Dragunov in that list.
They can't deny that. Yeah, that's probably the best WWE match of the year so far.
Wow, I think so. Certainly up there. Just an epic encounter in such an awkward, like, to do it in front of nobody is always really weird. So fair play to them for just absolutely rocking it. So I'd put that in there. Would you pick one for the top 10?
I'd put in. I'm trying to think. What has my favorite match of the year been? I'm gonna say probably. Can I nominate two because they came quite close together? I think. Oh.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So Edge versus Orton, but obviously that match was kind of edited a little bit, wasn't it? It was pre-shot and they didn't do it live, which I think cost it a little bit. But Edge and Orton was a fantastic match. The second one, the greatest show, not the WrestleMania one.
I think even without all the bells and whistles, it was still a really good match.
It was, yeah. And also around that sort of time, as if I think it was on the Go Home SmackDown, maybe, as if to try and steal the spotlight a little bit. I think it was AJ and Bryan had a bit of a tear down match on SmackDown. I think. God, this year's so weird. It's felt really long and really short at the same time. I don't like it.
Hit us up in the comment section with matches that you think would make the top 10 for 2020. And say nice things about us doing this now, which is a bit different. It's a bit more, it's nice to be chatting to friends at work again, I must admit. Yeah. But let us know what you think. And on that bombshell, have the most amazing of Wednesdays. How have you spent it? Any final thoughts, Jack?
I can't think of anything. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming. Love you. Bye.